Hey there, I'm really excited to share with you today our Vote Common Good conversation with Katie Porter. Katie is the congressional representative from the 45th Congressional District in California. That's the Irvine, Orange County area. And among other things, Katie is just a great representative in the United States Congress. She's also a tremendous person, been a really good friend of Vote Common Good, and we're glad to be a supporter of all of her work because we think Katie's one of those candidates that really does care about the common good. We have a 17-minute conversation with you as a part of our Common Good-A-Thon, where we ask people in the public spaces to share about the good that they're up to. And Katie has a lot to share. She talks about what she thinks a candidate of common good is like and why we should vote for them. She talks about accountability, which is really important to her and to the country, government accountability and accountability across our society. And she even talks about what we can do about the devastation that's happening in our society due to gun violence. So it's a really great conversation. Katie is in a car, very LA thing to do. She's traveling to another meeting and joins us, which is just a part of her really great spirit. She'll just find a way to connect. And we really appreciate that about Katie, and so appreciate her being with us. Stick around to the end of the conversation because she even shares something about her surfing and a hat and sharks. So it's worth sticking around till the end. Here's our conversation with Representative Katie Porter. Why is it important for people who are common good candidates to be reelected this year?
One of the things that I hear from lots of different kinds of people, regardless of party or age, background, is that they're worried about an eroding sense of community. And that is happening locally with a rise in things like hate crimes against the Asian Pacific American community, anti-Semitic attacks, but it's also happening. I mean, literally, we had violence in the halls of our democracy, and sort of the temple of our democracy in the U.S. Capitol. And so I think one of the things I love about the Common Good approach is that it focuses on inviting people into community. It focuses on finding what we have in common, which is a desire for the good life. And what I define as the good life, consistent with the common good, is a sense of having personal relationships, a sense of caring for others, and knowing that I can count on being cared for. Now, that sounds squishy and abstract, but you can translate it directly into public policies that I'm fighting for. For example, making sure that every kid in this country gets school lunch, making sure that no kid goes hungry. Whether you have kids or you're like me, you wonder why you have so many kids or you never had kids. That's our future workforce. Feeding them, feeding the hungry, literally. This is as much of a sort of Christ-driven mission as we can have, right? To literally nurture and care for others. And people do that in their worship communities. They do that locally in volunteering for food banks, but they don't often connect that to national politics. Mm-hmm. But that's where the funding and the resources for those folks in part come, as well as people's philanthropic efforts. So for me, thinking about being a common good candidate is about helping people see that the government's job is to help strengthen connections between us, not drive a wedge between us. And I think that kind of perspective is part of the reason that I enjoy representing Democrats, Republicans, no party preference, independent voters. I like having about a third. I like it. It makes me a better candidate, but more importantly, Doug, it makes me a better person.
Wow.
Oh, that's so great. And Katie, thank you so much for that. And I know that there's that sense that, accountability is important. It's important to be accountable to your voters and the people that you represent. You talk a lot about accountability in the work that you do. And, what are your beliefs? What's your take on the idea of corporate accountability, government oversight, how all that stuff works together?
Look, I think we need to have some plain talk here from elected officials about this. What I hear a lot when this topic comes up is, well, you can't trust them, right? You can't trust the other guy. I want to be crystal clear. A lack of trust in government is not just a Republican problem. It is an American problem. We have a crisis of trust. About only 1 in 3 Americans approve of the job Congress is doing. That's terrible. That's worse than virtually any other institution. So whose job is that to fix? Mine. Any person running for office is basically asking voters to trust them. And you have to earn that trust by being willing to hold yourself, people in your own party, people in other parties, corporate America, you have to hold them to account. You don't have to be mean, but you have to be clear. So when I fund a government program, I expect it to work. Whether it's fighter jets that I expect to actually, I don't know, fly, or whether we're talking about environmental programs that I expect to, I don't know, protect species rather than line the pockets of big oil. So that government accountability and oversight is fundamentally how we engage people in government. The fastest growing political party in this country, it's not Democrats, it's not Republicans, it's no party. And that reflects a trust issue. So the other thing I want to say is, when it's sort of an anecdote, but I've thought about this a lot. I'm entering my third campaign here. When I first went to run in 2018, one of the first things my consultants asked me was, what do you want to run on? What's going to be your big issue? And I said, consumer protection. And they said, that's not like a thing. Here are your things, like environment, race relations, criminal justice. Like they had a list of bucket, national security. They had this healthcare. And I said, no, consumer protection. And here's the thing. Nobody likes to get cheated.
Yeah.
Nobody, Republican, Democrat, young, old, white, brown, black, Muslim, Jewish, nobody likes to get ripped off. And frankly, there's a lot of that goes on in our economy. Yeah. And people are sick of it. And they want someone to hold corporations to play by the rules. And again, you can do it in a civil way. But if you're stealing from Americans, from hardworking Americans, if you're promising Americans that you're going to cover their health insurance and then you're denying their claims, if you're promising them that you're going to keep their money safe in bank accounts and you're stealing your customers' money, I'm coming for you. And that is a really, really important part of helping people see that government is acting in the common good, that government is there to help safeguard and protect us. So, I think that's part of it. And I think, frankly, also making sure that you're standing up to special money and outside money in politics. I was one of the class of people in 2018 who stopped taking corporate PAC money, never took it. And I was so naive. I didn't know Democrats did that. I was like, what? We do that? I was so naive. But it really, really has transformed how I spend my time, among other things. I don't spend my time at receptions eating cheese cubes. I spend my time in my community. And it makes all the difference to the problems I see, to the voices that I hear, to the sort of needs that I see and prioritize in my community. So I think that is also a part of accountability, is holding yourself to account in how you conduct your campaign.
Yeah. And Katie, it's really good to hear you say that, because I remember standing at a church at an event that we did that you were at in 2018 when you were running for office. And you were talking about how your family was impacted by the government not doing its role in the loss of your farm. And now you've been in office for 2 terms. You're going to run a 3rd time. You get a lot of attention, as you should. And you're still saying those same things. So I just want to acknowledge that and thank you for that it wasn't a campaign shtick in 2018. It's something that really seems core to you. And no. I just want to compliment you on that. Thank you for it.
People say to me, you're so authentic. And I always say back, I just don't have time to be anything else. Like I literally have no idea what I'm feeding these children for supper. I am, just came from my office talking about what we can do to help veterans. I don't have time to pretend, because the people deserve to know what we're actually doing. And if you're afraid to tell people what you're actually doing with your time and what you actually believe in and which experiences actually shaped you, then you're in the wrong business.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah. So Katie, I am here officially. My role right now is just massive fangirl. So all my friends are freaking out right now because we are just so excited. You represent me more than my own representative represents me. You know what it feels like to navigate through all of this COVID, keeping kids fed, entertained, safe. So we talk about this a lot. We have a group that meets every Thursday morning, and we're talking a lot about gun violence. And so we really want to know what do you want to What do you want to what do you want to happen in Congress? What do you want to do to help protect our kids?
Look, I think that one of the foremost, most principal duties of any elected official is to keep people safe. That literally is the heart of why we have a government. I mean, think about my colleagues who are willing to vote for any amount in the name of national security, but then look away and refuse to act dangerous within our own communities from things like gun violence. So the steps that we took in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act are positive. They are all positive steps, but they are not enough. And we know that. We need to be honest with people. Congress got something done. It's a miracle. Congress needs to do more. Saw that coming. Okay, so that's good for people to know. We are making progress and we need to keep making more. So 2 things I want to say. One is that I was really excited when I first got to Congress. We took control of the House that we were starting to be able to fund gun violence prevention research at the CDC. That is really important. What are the changes to gun ownership, gun sales, gun manufacturing, gun design, safe storage, all of those things? What are the practices that can actually save lives? We need research to do that. And we're just starting to get that research, which is really, really, really exciting. But one of the things that's very, very clear is that a ban on assault weapons does reduce mass killings. Gun violence is a multi-pronged phenomenon. We're talking about suicide attempts. We're talking about accidental deaths. We're talking about mass shootings, lots of intimate partner violence with guns. This is not just one phenomenon. But when we're talking about mass shootings, a ban on assault weapons will help reduce the number of deaths. And importantly, it's one of the biggest things we can do to support law enforcement is make sure that they are not being put in unsafe situations. Give them time to get there before the death toll is so high and so tragic. So a ban on assault weapons is something I strongly support. Mandatory background checks on all gun sales. Under the current law, about 25% of the people whose background check doesn't come back before the gun gets sold shouldn't have gotten the gun.
Yeah.
That's a bad system. We have to strengthen that system. And then I think, like I said, really thinking about gun violence as a multifaceted public health crisis. So I did a lot of work around making sure that we're asking people who are experiencing mental health crises, asking parents at pediatric checkups, do you have a gun? Is it stored safely? By educating them about red flag laws and other things we can do. So this is not an unsolvable problem. I am not going to ever give up believing that we can work together to save lives. Yeah. My God, talk about the common good. There it is right there for you. And it's on the ballot in November.
Yeah. Katie, there's nothing more LA than you doing this Zoom call from a car while you're driving somewhere.
And nothing represents
a congressperson more.
Show you here.
And I will just say that when I was growing up, there was a big argument about whether people should wear seatbelts. I don't know if you all remember this, but it was a big argument. And the federal government had to put in mandates and the seatbelt you're wearing right now is a public safety issue. And people fought it for all kinds of reasons. So to see you being very LA in a car with somebody else driving, by the way, people should know that.
I'm both hands, so I'm not driving.
It's hands-free for you. That there's the example, right? That there's a thing you can do that combined consumer protection, quite literally, like if you're going to buy a vehicle, it needs to come with safety. We can talk about safety and the government can have a role. Like we've had these successes and, it's tagged to people's names and politicians and so on. And we just trust that your good work will also be one of those things that in a few decades, people will look back on and say, of course, makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think one of the things that I really encourage people who are gun owners who've made that decision to be vocal about why and how safe storage and safe practices make a difference. We need to hear the voices of our community, which include people who are gun owners in designing and building this regulation. And what we have right now simply though is one side that basically has its fingers stuck in their ears and are refusing to listen. And that isn't helping gun owners as well, who don't want to have gun deaths, who want to be responsible, who want to be safe. But gun manufacturers, for example, could design safer products.
Yes.
just like car manufacturers design safer cars and save lives.
Yeah,
And we should
right.
put
There was
the
that
same
big, there was that
on-
big
on gun
campaign, that big buckle
manufacturers.
up campaign. There should be a big lock it up campaign for
Yep.
gun trigger laws and all kinds of things. Lots of things we can do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
do all
Katie,
of
can
them.
I want to ask you this. You know, a lot of us, and there's a lot of folks out there that, you know, look at the political climate, they look at the division, they look at the Supreme Court decisions, and man, people are feeling down and discouraged and like just feeling like, you know, could you talk to those of us that are just feeling a little down? Like, what would you say to those folks?
Absolutely. Look, it is the job of people of faith to keep the faith. And that is as true in a democracy as it is in a worship community, right? So it is normal to question. It is normal to doubt. It is normal to have self-doubt, to doubt others, to struggle to find your place and your voice in a community. But when it is hard is when it is most important to reach out, to connect with others, and to have that belief. Part of my job is to deliver the hope in times when people feel hopeless. And people deliver that to me. I just want to say, I am the benefit of people who stop me and say, thank you. I have people who stop me and say, I'm going to vote for you, but you're not that bad. I love it. I love the ability to connect with people as part of this job. And so I would just encourage anyone who's feeling hopeless, whether it's about politics, about anything else, find a community, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whether it's faith-based, whether it's community-based, advocacy or issue-based. That is the number one thing we can do. Democracy is a team sport. It is something we do together. So if you're feeling down, I think the most important thing you can do is gather with others, be the hope for somebody else, and let them be the hope for you.
Well, this is not NPR, so we're not going to give you a driveway moment, even though we're raising money. So we're going to let you out of that car because we can tell that you have reached
I've
your
arrived at my
destination. You have timed this perfectly. We're so grateful for your time with us and for your good
Thank
work.
you. And everyone, I just want you all to know, if you see Doug's hat, all right, Doug, show them your hat. Talk so they can see your hat.
I'm talking so you can see my hat, talking so
All
you
right,
can see
this
my
is
hat.
the official Katie Porter surf hat. I bought this hat and I was terrified. I really needed to feel God's love washing over me as I paddled out there for the first time. That is the official surfing hat of Katie Porter right there. The Vote Common Good orange hat with the turquoise logo. Get yours soon. Thank you all so much.
Thank you,
Saves you from
Katie.
shark attacks
Thank
and
you.
and covers your head as a representative.
Thank you.
Just that. Thank you, dear. Hey, we hope you enjoyed watching that as much as we enjoyed doing the interview. Katie is just great, isn't she? You can find out, of course, much more over at katieporter.com. And if you're interested in what we're doing over at Vote Common Good, trying to help everyone, especially faith voters, to make the common good their voting criteria, votecommon.good.com is where you can find all that we're up to. And look, you've watched this video this far. If you're not already a subscriber to our channel, go ahead and subscribe. There's a lot going on here. Helps us, helps you. Share it with a friend. We'd love for you to do that. And we will see you in some common goodery over at votecommon.good.com.